My name is Kelly Jensen, and I'm the Career Advisor and Alumni Outreach Specialist for HDSI. So I have the pleasure of working closely with both our students and alumni. I've developed this series in response to the increasing interest from students and alumni who want more opportunities to connect, network, and learn from each other. The events will always feature an HDSI alumni, or maybe more than one, but students and alumni from all majors are welcome to attend, as our faculty, staff, and industry professionals, because we understand that a diverse group will have more to offer. These spotlight events will alternate between virtual and in-person so that we can provide the space for alumni who are not local to San Diego, as well as opportunities to meet face-to-face, which can often be more conducive to organic conversations. Through this series, you'll have the opportunity to meet some incredible professionals in the field of data science who will discuss related topics, but also share their unique stories, challenges, and tips for success. Please be a proactive participant. Ask questions, give insights, share contact information. And if virtual, as we are today, be sure to have your camera on. You don't have to have it on during the presentation, but especially during the networking portion. You're welcome to ask questions, make comments, and have conversations in the chat throughout the event, and our networking facilitators will do their best to respond. I encourage you to start by introducing yourselves in the chat and share your major, your year of graduation, your place of employment if relevant, or any other interesting tidbits you'd like to add. Today's event will start with a presentation by our inaugural guest spotlight, Advitya Gemawat, followed by time for discussion and Q&A. Then you'll meet three more incredible UCSD alumni who are all doing amazing work in the field of data science. And along with Advitya, we'll be facilitating today's networking breakout room for the last 30 minutes of the program. Please note today's event will be recorded up until the breakout session. Now, I'd like to turn it over to our guest of honor, a 2021 HDSI graduate and active alumni committee member, Advitya Gemawat.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for inviting me, Kelly. And thanks everyone for being here. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. Can everyone see this? Yes, maybe. Thumbs up in the chat. Yep. Okay. So, yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming in. My name is Advitya Gemawat. I graduated from HDSI in 2021, and I'm a machine learning engineer at the Microsoft AI Development Acceleration Program, or MADAP. MADAP is a 2-year rotational program where I get to work with 4 different orgs across Microsoft on different kinds of machine learning projects and kind of get to learn about different kinds of machine learning challenges across the company. So yeah, that's a bit about me, but you'll be hearing more about my college journey soon. All right, so we kind of start in fall of 2017, which was the first time when I arrived at UCSD. And I was an international student from India. And this was my first time in the US. So you can kind of probably visualize what an exciting time it would have been for me. So yeah, it was quite interesting. It was a totally new environment, a totally foreign country, and it was just very excited to kind of immerse myself into the UCSD ecosystem. At the same time, there were challenges as well with all the excitement that was going around. I was kind of trying to navigate a brand new academic system, right? There were lots of cultural differences between my home country and the US, trying to navigate those, try to see how to navigate staying in a new country and staying away from home, essentially for the first time. And there were also communication challenges that I also had with making sure that I am well understandable to people, and also making sure that I can understand people well as well, considering like the different kinds of terminologies that they might use in classes and things like that. So a lot of these interesting challenges that I also kind of got to immerse myself in when I came to college. So for my initial journey into data science, funny story, when I came to UCSD, or when I applied to UCSD, I actually applied with an engineering sciences major. I wanted to pursue engineering, but I didn't know which kind. And so I got into engineering sciences. And 10 days after my admission offer, that major somehow got canceled. I have no idea why. And I just automatically got structural engineering as my major. So I actually came into college with a structural engineering major. I took the first class. I even ended up doing well on it, but I couldn't see myself working in that area. And I was very passionate about math since high school, and I wanted to pursue a major ideally which combined math and computer science in some way. And I ultimately wrote down my options to mathematics and computer science, the joint major, and data science. And data science was this new major that was introduced in college when I was a freshman. So ultimately, after a lot of discussions with the academic advisors at that time, talking to professors, upperclassmen, talking to people in the industry, talking to a whole bunch of people and attending events, I finally decided to switch my major to data science. And this was in the winter quarter when I took the first class in data science. But my performance wasn't exactly ideal. It was definitely a lot for me to take in. I didn't really have much programming experience beforehand. And so I didn't really perform exactly well in the first data science class. And that also created a little bit of self-doubt within me. I started to think, like, can I really survive in this major? If this is the first class, and if I'm not doing very well in it, or if I'm struggling in it a little bit, what's going to happen for the rest of my time in college? But one thing that I really discovered is really being able to ask for help when I need it, and really being able to utilize the academic system that we had in college, by, say, going to professor hours, like office hours or tutor hours, and utilizing them and getting the kind of guidance that I needed really changed the game for me in terms of both how I would look at classes and how I would approach them, and my overall performance. So being used to immersing myself into the academic system and pursuing resources that I needed was very, very helpful for me to kind of get more well settled in data science. Also, outside the classroom, I really wanted to diversify my experience, and UCSD looked like this academic paradise with lots of friendly people, lots of opportunities around, lots of events. And so I really started to attend a whole bunch of events, like social events, professional events, outside the classroom, hearing from alumni, hearing from companies, different kinds of people. And one major pattern that I discovered was I realized the importance of networking and branding and really putting myself out there when I try to align myself to, say, opportunities during college or even after college. The image on the right side is actually this feature that I was involved in the DSE newsletter. After my freshman year got over, I actually had the opportunity to be a first featured student on the data science newsletter. They were asking for students whose experiences they could showcase, and I felt that this was one opportunity for me to put myself out there and share my experience. So that was also a good feeling for me, where I could share my experience and also had other people reaching out to me to learn about it, me being able to share some of my initial knowledge with other people, things like that. In terms of building practical experience, in the winter quarter of my freshman year, I just started binge watching online courses. I kind of went to this website called datacam.com, did a whole bunch of data science centric online courses. And then I had a friend of mine who had joined like a student run startup at the time. And because I knew my friend, like I kind of networked my way to kind of interview for that startup. And then I was selected to just kind of join their group and contribute to a whole bunch of data science projects, which really helped me build some of my initial experience. In the summer, I secured a data science internship in a large financial company in India. So also experiencing how data science is actually applied in the industry at a larger scale was also a very nice new experience that I got to have in the area. And following that, or before I do that, the images that you see on your right, one of the images is my first day at work. And the other image, while I'm kind of talking, is kind of me giving a data science talk to some of my colleagues in that company. So really sharing some of my knowledge and the perspectives that I learned in freshman year was also pretty great in terms of me sharing my knowledge and also having this first industry internship experience. And in the sophomore year, I came across one event in the DSE newsletter about this lab tour that was being organized for learning about this lab, which did some really great ML systems or systems for machine learning research. And I went to that lab tour. I liked their work a lot. So I reached out to the professor, sent over my resume, had some conversations. And I also volunteered to join their research lab, which, and I can expand upon this later, was the best decision that I ever took in my college in a way, because that was also part of the reason why I kind of landed my current job. So really having this, by kind of knowing people or networking and kind of knowing certain people that I would want to work with, and by utilizing some of the academic events, I was able to build some initial practical experience, which I found quite useful and also quite dynamic and interesting in terms of building my practical experience and college experience. But everything did not necessarily go great, right? I also had to face a lot of rejections in the process, and this was a part of the process essentially. So one notion that I really heard was that it can be very difficult for undergraduate data science majors to get data science roles. First, because data science is a very new major at an undergraduate level. And second, because most of the data science positions at the time seemed to be reserved for master's or PhD level candidates. So it was almost unheard of for someone to get data science opportunities in the US in their undergrad. And I refused to believe that. I really thought that if you're having such specialized coursework in our major, and if I'm engaging in these experiences outside the classroom, I refuse to believe that undergrads can get these kinds of jobs. I really believe that that if I can do the work, I should also deserve the kind of role that I want. But though in my second year, while I tried to get internships in the US, I didn't really get any offers. Partly this was also due to my immaturity with the job search process, where I thought that if I'm passing some initial interviews of a company, I'll probably make it all the way through. That's not necessarily the case. And so it was a lot of time kind of went by. I probably didn't search for opportunities, or I didn't put myself out there as much as I should have. And that resulted in me getting not like the ideal kind of, not the ideal result that I would have wanted. Ultimately, I got this internship at a last moment at a large consulting firm in India, just something that I could also build my experience by, right when I kind of almost lost hope in getting any opportunities for the summer. And even while doing that internship, in the summer, I was trying to improve my interviewing skills, trying to identify gaps in my performance. And this was really the point at the end of my sophomore year where I started to try to do job search really at scale in terms of reaching out to people on LinkedIn, asking for referrals, interviewing for a bunch of companies, but also getting literally hundreds of rejections in terms of the people that I might reach out to for opportunities. And in the midst of like all of this kind of job search processes at scale and getting so many rejections, something unusually good happened. I kind of came across this one position, which was a data science position at the master's level, but I wasn't eligible for it. So I naturally didn't even bother applying. but I came across an undergraduate internship from the same company, and they said that they do have some projects related to data science that undergrads could do. I reached out to this person on LinkedIn. They were also a UCSD alum, and they kind of said that they are hiring for data science interns in their team. And even though they were only looking for master's or PhD level applicants, they could potentially make an exception. So they asked around in their team. They granted me an exception to interview for that role, even though that was a graduate level role. And 3 interviews later, I got the offer. And this was truly revolutionary or life-changing for me at the time, in terms of debunking this myth that undergrads can get data science roles, where I could see firsthand that if I can put myself out there, really make the effort, really hone in my skills and learn from my rejections, I can still get what I want in a way. And my degree level doesn't have to come in the way of me getting the opportunity, the opportunities I want. But this wasn't just about me. The one thing that I got from them reaching out to me was that after hiring me, they realized that undergrads can also do the work. And they actually told me that they then modified the requirements on their job requisitions to also accept undergrads in their role moving forward. And at the time, we actually had another data science major who was also accepted for internships in the same team. So having that kind of an impact where I could also, where I could make the industry realize that undergrads can also do the work, where I could say convince a large company to tweak their requirements to accept undergrads and to also have another data science major accepted into the internship was a very satisfying feeling for me, that this impact wasn't just limited to me, but I was having, in a way, a positive impact on the community around me. And so undergrads can get data science roles is kind of the most untrue statement I've heard in college. So if you hear this statement again, you know it's not true. And the image that you see on the right is one of the sunsets that I kind of clicked a picture of after I would return back from the office. Yeah. At the same time, there's no end to human ambition. So even after getting that opportunity, I had professors and mentors who recommended me to look for opportunities in companies that have an even more enhanced amount of emphasis in projects related to the software space. And I still thought that, okay, I still have this one offer with me. Can I try to do something even better? So I tried for opportunities. I still got failures, no doubt, but I started to get a lot more interviews with the way that my profile was being structured and with the opportunities that I had kind of gotten earlier. So I utilized career fairs and different kinds of events. I ultimately got a data scientist internship at a large enterprise software company to consider. And I utilized some of my network with the professor that I worked with, and I got a research-oriented internship, which is not a data science internship, but a ML engineering internship at this large software company. And so I really saw this as an opportunity to, in a way, transition from my traditional role or background in data science to building large-scale software and systems for data scientists by being in this machine learning engineering role. And so that's what I pursued, and I had an absolutely tremendous experience. And the image that you see on your right is like one of the virtual meetups that a lot of the interns had. And the world came crashing down. So I think we all know what happened in 2020. Probably don't need to repeat it. And yeah, on a personal level, I had to navigate a lot of lifestyle changes. Things were uncertain. A lot of international students were going back home, but I really wanted to pursue the internship opportunity that I got. And so I didn't want to return back. I just wanted to stay in the US for the time being and really continue my education from here. And so there were also concerns with my family in terms of my health and safety, making sure I'm doing okay. I was also dependent on the college dining halls for my food on a regular basis. So that was also kind of a personal transition experience for me, where I had to take care of some of the personal stuff on my side. So there were some challenges. And of course, we had virtual classes. At the same time, even after doing really well in my role, I was supposed to get 2 different kinds of offers to choose from as return offers after my internship. And I suddenly realized that I was ineligible for them as an international undergrad. And so that kind of brought me back to square one of getting opportunities in a not so great economic climate, but trying to get full-time opportunities from scratch. And so for the next 9 months, I literally cold messaged probably more than thousands of people on LinkedIn. I had an entire process set up for job search, which I will talk more about later on. I tracked almost 700 different kinds of positions, gave more than 50 kinds of interviews, and ultimately got 3 offers to choose from after correcting certain things. So for the first 9 months, I did not get any offers. And then after correcting certain things, I got 3 offers one after the other. I got a graduate level machine learning engineering offer in an autonomous vehicle company. I also got a data scientist offer in a large tech social media platform in a rotation program, actually. And the 3rd offer I got was my current job. So you only need one yes in a way, regardless of the amount of time you spent, but ultimately things were still okay. And here's how I went about the end game of my job search in my senior year. So really the one thing that I realized about myself was the pacing of the answers that I had. Sometimes I would talk very fast, or my speech would be quite verbose with a lot of extra words. So really bringing that clarity in my communication, especially while answering behavioral questions, was quite important. And so I corrected this pacing by giving a bunch of mock interviews on websites like Cramp, going to my friends, literally having them mock interview me and ask me behavioral questions, me trying to answer those questions, record myself simultaneously, and also getting feedback on that and hearing my recording later on. I know it can be a very weird process to, it can be a very weird thing to listen to your own recording, but I had to go through that pain because no pain, no gain. But yeah, ultimately tried to correct this, and then I got these 3 contiguous offers that I talked about. And the best thing was that towards the spring break before I graduated, I was actually in India for a couple of weeks because it had been a while since I saw my family. And I actually got to sign my job offer in front of my family. The image that you see on your right is a very candid image of me actually signing my job offer letter. It was like recorded and everything. As you can see, I looked super anxious here because all the things that were going in my mind was, okay, I need to head back, then I need to time, how do I apply for my work authorization? And then I need to move to this new city in the Boston area. The only thing I know about Boston is that it's this city that keeps showing up in weather reports. I got sent a bunch of forms from my company that I need to fill out, do a lot of the processes, really make sure my work authorization and the relocation, everything is locked and loaded for me to start my new job. So a lot of thoughts going in my head here. And ultimately, finally got to graduate on a high note from San Diego all the way across the country in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Going to UCSD was the best decision that I ever took in my life. And getting into UCSD was the best thing that ever happened to me because it fully transformed my life to the extent that I would not ever foresee. So this is kind of my college journey, long story short kind of version. Before I proceed forward with the next part of my presentation, are there any questions?
There have been a couple questions in the chat, but I think they're kind of getting answered as we go. But if anybody has anything additional, then please feel free to either add in the chat or speak up if you're comfortable.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely see a lot of technical questions related to the job search process and things. So I can probably hopefully address most of them in the next part of my presentation and can answer questions there. All right, so I've mostly spent my time talking about myself. Now I want to spend the remaining time talking about you. And I wanted to share my personal college navigation guide are some of the approaches that I've had in college to go about the job search process, and some of the foundational principles and some of the foundational principles and philosophies that I've tried to formulate or follow. Here's the agenda. We'll talk first about classes and how to look at classes from the perspective of your overall academic/college experience. We'll talk about the importance of getting formally educated on the job search process. We'll also talk about establishing processes that are scalable, that can be done at a large level, that are mechanical and well-defined for you to actually engage in the day-to-day of the opportunity search process. We'll talk about distinguishing yourself from the rest of the crowd and how to build your personal brand. And there will also be a secret special topic at the end, so stay tuned for that. Navigating classes. So this is my personal philosophy about classes. Minimize time, maximize grade. Sounds great, right? And yeah, ideally, if we can do this, it would probably be very ideal to go about our classes, right? And I kind of have this underlying personal philosophy for a couple of reasons. The main reason is that classes need to be part of your college experience, not your entire college experience. And the driver reason for that is classes don't necessarily distinguish you from the rest of the crowd because everyone's taking the same classes. Even if you take graduate level classes, while that is quite impressive for an undergrad, and you could talk about some specialized knowledge that you may have, if there are positions that are open to multiple degree levels, they can also get applications from graduate students having taken the same classes. And especially with a field like data science, there is need to get experience with real world challenges. And so classes are kind of a simulated environment by the design of it in terms of learning some of the fundamental concepts. But with a field like data science, it is especially important to combine your learnings from classes to real world practical experience in order to really set yourself up for success and align yourself towards the opportunities you want. And so on a logistical level, it is kind of important for you to look at your 4-year academic plan, look at your entire plan in all the classes you'll be taking, the concepts, and say, for example, if you're looking to get an internship at the end of your junior year, the recruiting for that typically starts in the fall of the junior year. UCSD starts in late September, which logistically is a little later than when a lot of companies may release their requisitions, say in early August or even late July. And so by the end of your sophomore year, in a way, you need to see how many classes you can take, what kinds of concepts you can learn from those classes. And then you need to talk to other people in terms of what's actually required to pass the interviews, compare the delta or the difference between the two. And if there are differences in terms of concepts that you may not be able to conventionally learn by the time the recruiting season actually comes up, what are your mitigations, or how do you learn those concepts on the side to make yourself prepared from an interviewing perspective as well? And so, yeah, this is really about identifying the interviewing skills to learn. And this is also really about trying to extract maximum time outside of your classes to invest in practical opportunities, because that is really going to be the factor that is going to set yourself up for getting opportunities. And one of the biggest advantages of engaging in practical opportunities early on during college is that it really helps in your classes. It is kind of this, it's opposite of a vicious cycle. It's kind of like a positive cycle, if you may, where if you learn concepts in practical experiences, it reduces your learning curve because you already get exposed to several concepts that you may learn in your classes later on. So by the time you come to those concepts in your classes, you may have already had familiarity with them. And so it really eases your academic workload, which in turn could potentially save a lot of time that you can then, again, also spend in your practical opportunities. So having this harmony between your classes and stuff outside the classroom, prioritizing things accordingly, but also keeping in mind your end goal related to getting opportunities in the industry, for example, is pretty important. Now, I'll be talking about the sheer power of office hours and tutor hours and how that really changed the game for me when I looked at classes. Attending office hours really gives you insight into understanding the professor's mindset, how they have thought about designing or constructing the class, and what are the important topics that they really emphasize on from the perspective of not only just exams and midterms and things, but also from the perspective of learning in the longer term. And this also has an added bonus where attending office hours will help you organically network with professors and learn a lot about their experiences and potentially even utilize their network. Second, this reduces a lot of ambiguity and saves a lot of time. There can be a lot of speculation time that you may have while you're trying to do an assignment yourself. And rather than speculating about what this question may mean, what this question may be expecting, you can attend office hours and tutor hours and ask the professors and the TAs clarifying questions on the assignment and on the things that you have to do. That'll save a lot of your time. This also helps with regrading. For example, if your answer may not match with what the TAs may have in their grading script, right? You can still go to them, or you can go to the professors, and maybe you can explain the thought process behind your answer. They will have already known you because they would have interacted with you in these office hours and tutor hours. And oftentimes in an area like data science, you can have different answers to the same question by having different underlying assumptions about the underlying problem. And so if you have a different set of assumptions, you can potentially have a different answer, and your answer may also be reasonable. So if you can explain your thought process to them, not only could that help you with your regrade, that could also help others with similar assumptions as you. And that can also help in knowledge sharing, where, say, the professors or the TAs may update on a Piazza post to other students saying that there are more than one approaches to solving this particular problem, which can also expose other students into knowing about different ways of looking at a problem. So office hours and tutor hours helps with recreating, knowledge sharing, potentially even making changes to the policy of a class in case things are getting very hard for everyone. Then you're kind of seen as a credible student voice in front of the professor or the TA to even see if the class policies may need to be adapted in any way to facilitate the students better. And this is one of the most underrated but powerful conventional resources baked into the academic system. These can save a lot of time, provide a lot of clarity, and really enhance your network. So it really is a win-win situation to attend office hours of pretty much all classes that you're taking. Next, formal education on job search. Don't rely on your assumptions. So there's a way on how to build your profile. There are existing conventions on how to do things. There is a lot of standardization in the process. There's even formal material on how to construct the point of a resume in terms of the action words, what you did, what the impact was, adding keywords or metrics, etc., to really catch the attention of the viewer. And so there's a particular process in terms of how these things are done. So don't go about the job search process arbitrarily. Utilize college resources and other experienced people to actually learn how to construct a resume, how to construct a LinkedIn profile, etc. Before you actually go out to do anything, sure, you can make some draft template, but it's really important for you to learn with conventional college resources on how to conventionally construct your profile. For example, in the case of UCSD, using the Trident Career Guide will be quite helpful because that has a lot of material on building your profile. And attend as many events as you possibly can, because even from the perspective of the job search process, you can extract a lot of patterns and insights on what recruiters are looking for, what companies are looking for, and how you can align towards some of those requirements. So the number one thing to engage in this process initially is really to learn and emulate before you start really crafting a story around your profile. Next, establishing processes. And let me provide an example of what this kind of looks like. So I will be providing an example on my job tracking infrastructure that I've had in college. And let me talk in a bit of a data science language here. These are my data sources, Google Job Alerts and LinkedIn Job Alerts. I have some search queries that I run on these job alert tools. And I use Boolean search, where I have keywords related to the job titles. I want new grad positions, say, for example, or internships, and putting in locations. And I have multiple search queries that I run on these data sources. The outputs of the query are basically provided on my Gmail, where I've set an automatic trigger in a way, or in simpler words, I have signed up to receive daily job alerts or weekly job alerts from these places. There's another source where attending in-person events like career fairs, info events also helps me get contact info of the people that I've talked to and follow up with them offline on email. And email is really the place where I do a lot of my data cleaning and feature engineering, identifying the positions of interest and what I would want to apply for. Then I would take all of the clean data, all of the insights, and save it into a structured tabular database. After storing information about the different job positions, I would engage in applying the data to my model. My model here is a lot of message templates that are sent to people at different stages of the processes for different kinds of scenarios. I have a lot of templates, and I infuse some of the features in the data into these templates. And then I serve my model by, say, reaching out to people on LinkedIn. There are practical engineering constraints to doing so as well. For example, if you send connection requests to someone, that needs to be, if I remember correctly, within 300 characters. So I would want to make sure that my templates they're generated adhere to these constraints. And there's also a feedback loop of continuously improving this, iterating on this, and using different kinds of templates for different stages of the process. This is one example, and I haven't even showed all the components that I have in my process. But I want to communicate that it is very important to express your job search process and express it down to a formula or down to a well-defined sequence of steps that you can do daily at scale. And there's auxiliary tools that you can use for scheduling interviews. Say if I have 3 interviews in a week, I can't manually go ahead and provide time windows and schedule all of that. It'll require a lot of back and forth. Using tools like Calendly and syncing with your calendar streamlines this entire process. And documenting everything that I'm pretty much doing in my day on a Google Calendar also really helps in terms of organizing everything, setting up all of my periodic deadlines, etc. Distinguish yourself from the rest of the crowd. So, slightly unconventional opinion here. I've heard a lot about personal projects as one of the ways to get started. But you also got to realize that you're in an academic paradise with UCSD. And there are certain challenges with personal projects to be aware of. First, it's too common. Picture 50 people standing in a line in a career fair. They've all done personal projects. They're all very passionate about their personal projects. But what makes you different from the rest of the crowd? It's also tricky to enhance visibility with your personal project or to really guarantee that your personal project is really going to catch the eye of the recruiter. Example, when an average of 6 seconds is spent scanning a resume. Think about the logistical or practical constraints here. There are other roadblocks related to being self-motivated to pursue this. There's lack of enough access to mentorship. Say if you're working with peers, which is different from working with someone who's a lot more experienced. And if you are new in the major, it is hard to find interesting challenges simply because you may not have enough exposure to the area that you're in. Say, for example, data science. I didn't have much experience when I came in. And so one of the recommendations I have is that doing research projects in college is a lot better than personal projects because we have rigorous and relevant problems at UCSD with a lot of impact. There are potential publications that can also come out of it. You get to network with other professors and graduate students, which can also lead to industry connections. There is better accountability. You develop soft skills. You get access to lab resources like compute, which is otherwise very expensive. and it's one of the best alternatives to an internship. How to get a research role? So find about interesting topics that they work on. After you find out those topics, send them an email. Talk about your interest and what interests you. It's also good to build templates for those. It's also a numbers game, so reaching out to graduate students will also help. And try to also utilize your in-person or virtual interactions with them with classes, events, etc., to learn more about their work. How to build your personal brand. Try to be visible and proactive about this. So try to attend classes, events, and really participate. Try to put yourself out there, which will make you recognizable with other people. When you meet people, say at a career fair, share your contact info and connect online so that you have communication channels open with them. I would even say keep 5 updated resumes in your backpack at all times, so that if you meet someone or if you suddenly have an event to go to, you can provide those resumes. Develop a consistent habit of updating your profiles as you go through experiences, and attach different kinds of links to your profiles, different work samples, items, any articles you might write. And try to post about the internship experiences you might have, any achievements that you might have gotten, and that'll really build your online personal brand that recruiters and other people can really look at and deem you as a credible voice. And it's also a good idea to provide access to profiles with online communication, such as with email signatures. Special topic. So a lot of you may have heard that it's very difficult to get data science opportunities as an undergrad, right? Let's change the game. How do we get graduate level opportunities as an undergrad? Fasten your seatbelts. Graduate degree requirements might be soft. Oftentimes, even recruiters or hiring managers don't know what they want. They may look at a previous job requisition and they might think that, okay, that says master's or PhD, let's replicate the same thing, copy paste. And so the job requisitions could be outdated. You can subtly hint that, okay, I'm interested in this company X in these undergraduate roles. Ideally, my interest is in data science and machine learning. I did my research. I found these positions. It seems I'm not eligible for it. So I still found these other positions that I might still be eligible for, some generic internship programs, but I'm also interested in data science. So you can subtly communicate this. And if your profile is compelling enough, they could provide you an exception. In the context of in-person or LinkedIn interactions, try to share these undergraduate role requisitions with them that you are interested, there are positions you're eligible for, and showcase your interest for more specialized kind of work. And then kind of let them decide if they could potentially make an exception for you. And they might. Third, professors. This is by far the most powerful thing to get these kinds of opportunities, because professors can unlock opportunities that can be practically impossible to get as an undergrad. Why? They're a credible voice. And if a professor is vouching for you, or especially if they have industry collaborators, that can really, really help put in a better case for yourself and really help you get those interviews of those graduate level roles. And so when you're researching about professors, try to find industry collaborations in their work, whether at the bottom of their lab page, with the research grants or gifts they may have received, or any industry collaborators as co-authors of their papers, etc. Try to find if they have collaborations with the industry. Not only would that mean that their research problems have real-world impact, but that also means that they have a network that you could potentially leverage if you work with them. I want to end with this note. I hope you guys realize the sheer gravity of where you are and what this represents. Millions of people aspire to be where you are right now, if you really think about it. Studying at one of the top universities on this planet is not a joke. You're the chosen ones. Make the most of it. Questions?
Hey, Advitya, thank you for the, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation and for all the tips you gave us. It was pretty cool to hear all your experience and your undergrad experience here at UCSD. I'm also an international student, so I relate with most of the things you spoke about. And yeah, my question will be, which you consider will be like a critical skill you had that make you in the machine learning in the Microsoft position?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So if I understood you correctly, what's a critical skill that kind of got me into my job, right? Obviously, there are technical skills which are always good to learn about. But one of the things that these kinds of large tech companies also look for is potential and soft skills, communication, and being able to articulate yourself. It's a lot easy to teach technical skills than figuring out if someone may not have the right attitude for the job, right? So really kind of networking your way by talking to those people and entering the interviewing process with that way, trying to articulate your experiences, weaving a story around it, having a sense of purpose on why you want what you want, how does that complement your experiences, and how you can succeed in that role. Having that kind of articulation into your thought process and being able to seamlessly work with them on that, whether they be on technical questions or behavioral questions, that is probably one of the biggest lessons that I got when I now look back at my interviewing processes and my performance.
Thank you.
Advitya, that was an amazing presentation, packed full of such good information, and really appreciate you sharing all of your experiences and your wisdom. I want to make sure that we have time for our other three guests to introduce themselves and have plenty of time for the breakout session. So if any of you all still have questions, just hold on to them and you'll be welcome to hop through the breakout rooms and talk to each of the guests as much as you would like. So with that, I will turn it over to Colleen, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll pass it down the line to our other facilitators.
Okay, sure. Hello, I'm Colleen. I graduated UCSD in 2018. I graduated with a bachelor's in probability and statistics within the math department, in economics, and then I also did a minor in CS. And at the time, the data science major was not an option. They said that it would be offered to the year afterward. But yeah, I'm originally from the Bay Area. I was in Marshall College. So when I was an undergrad, I took a lot of classes in order to fulfill all these degree requirements. I also am very thankful for the professors that I met who really encouraged me to go into grad school. I realized I really liked research when I was an undergrad. And so I also did some undergraduate research experiences, REUs for short. If you're familiar with them, I think that's a great way to kind of get your hands into research as an undergrad. And yeah, right now I'm a grad student at Yale. I'm a fifth year now. I went straight from undergrad, and hopefully graduating next year. I'm considering both academia and industry right now. So I'm really interested in causal inference and machine learning research, if you're familiar with causal inference. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about my experiences going into grad school. In grad school, I was also very fortunate to also gain some industry experience. So I've worked as a data scientist at Amazon. I was an AI resident at Google X. I also kind of worked at the Fed in my first year, and also it was like a summer research project with the Air Force Research Lab. So a lot of diverse experiences, I would say. So I'm happy to talk more about that or anything else. We don't even have to talk about any of those. So, but yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, Colleen, thank you for being here. Nicholas, you want to go next?
Yeah, so sorry, I've got a puppy going underneath me, and I've got a maintenance crew opening up our ceiling over here. So it's no pressure, right? My name's Nick Baudois. I graduated in 2015. I actually graduated a year after simming. Shout out to simming. Like it weren't for her, I would have not passed any of the economics courses. So, like, to solicit what was said during this meeting is, hang on to your classmates. You never know. I've got classmates who, if I went to their industry, they'd be interviewing me. So you just never know who's going to be in a hiring position down the road. So I graduated in 2015. I took a lot of time between undergrad and grad school. I worked in Taiwan for about 3 years, and then I worked in education in Washington, D.C. So I took about 7 years between undergrad and grad school. And then 2015 graduated, went into political polling in DC. 2015 was not the greatest year to be a pollster, and I worked within analytics and econometrics testing of political messages and dove headfirst into data science from there. I worked a lot on the national security side for the US government when it came to data science, be it State Department or other federal governments, and switched over to the commercial side about 3 years ago. So I work for a company right now called Maven Wave. We do consulting, primarily around machine learning operations, what we call ML ops platforms. It's the infrastructure that keeps machine learning together. So it ties in data engineering, it ties in data ingestion, all the way to creating algorithms and then serving them in a production environment. And so I work with companies like, is this being recorded right now, by the way? Or did we stop the recording?
Yes, it's still recording.
Okay, so I'll talk about company names in the chat groups. A lot of fun stuff. Global theme parks making predictions on roller coasters. Lots of really interesting types of predictive maintenance on factory equipment and car stuff. So I'll open it up to the juicy stuff if you come to my session. I'll promise you that.
Awesome, thank you, Nick. Glad to have you here. And last but not least, we have another HDSI alumna, Alexandra. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra. I graduated as a data science major in the class of 2020. So I was the first class to graduate, which was very exciting. I was also a cognitive science minor. And I did a lot of research while I was in my undergrad that got me really interested in data science. And then I have a lot of varying job experience. I worked for the largest mortgage lender doing data analytics. I worked for the FBI as a data analyst, and then I'm currently working as an NLP data scientist at Leidos, which is a government contractor. But it's really cool because I work in the AI ML accelerator. So we're doing a lot of internal research and development for like machine learning development, specifically in NLP. But then we also apply those to a bunch of different contracts, working with NASA, we're working with NASCAR. Like, there's so many different projects, which is really interesting. And I really enjoy that type of work because you can kind of choose your own path, and you could do like research and development, but also apply to work to a client. And I like working on multiple things at once. So I really like having varying projects. I'm also in grad school. I started in January. I go to Georgia Tech online. I'm doing a master's in analytics with a specialization in machine learning. And so I basically applied after 2 years. And a big incentive for me to wait was because I wanted my employer to pay for it. So that's why I decided to wait. So there are pros and cons to both, but that was the one, like the path that I wanted to do. And then I'm also leading the internship program for my company for next year. So I'm happy to answer any questions. The application is gonna probably be live next week. So if anyone's interested, I know some people have already messaged me. Just send me a message if you haven't, and I'll be sure to send you that the job posting once it becomes available.
Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you as well for being here. So as you can see, we've got some really awesome leaders for our breakout rooms. It's up to you which rooms you want to choose. Please feel free to hop through and meet everybody and get your questions answered, get your contact information out there, and just make the most of this networking time. So we'll go ahead and we'll stop recording now, and we'll go ahead and open up the breakout room.